show discussing all things camping, bushcraft, and outdoor adventure.
Hey guys, it's Liam here.
And Tom. And we're here with episode 2 of the Wodesman podcast. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, me and Liam just wanted to say a really heartfelt and warm Merry Christmas to all of our listeners. And yeah, just sort of a heartfelt thank you to everyone who's listened to our podcast and has been sending us messages. As Liam will tell you now, we've had some absolutely amazing feedback, haven't we, mate?
Yeah, I mean, it's been just pretty overwhelming, to be honest, and the words of support are just so inspirational. Obviously, we recorded episode 2 while we were on our camp last time, so we got that out of the way, but we wanted to kind of do a little, I guess, thank you and a kind of introduction to this being released so near to Christmas. Obviously, it's a really festive season and we wanted to give something back to you guys as well. So we really appreciate it, don't we?
Absolutely. I mean, both of us have received personal messages from number of people in the community, and just people have really sort of clicked with it. And like, I didn't expect anyone to listen, to be honest, like to actually want to listen to me and you have a chat. I'm just really grateful to everyone who bothered to spend some time to listen to us two just jabbering on about what we love. And yeah, we really do appreciate it.
It's really encouraging, isn't it? And, I'm just really glad that we've got it out of the way, and we just hope you guys have a really Merry Christmas, a really festive time, and hopefully Santa brings you some good gear, goodies that you can send us a message and let us know about, because that would be really cool to hear from you guys.
Absolutely. I know my Christmas list is looking spicy on the bushcraft front, so hopefully Santa visits and you don't just get coal.
That's it. I think a lot of my presents are probably going to be outdoor gifts this time.
Yeah, it's always the hope around Christmas. So we just wanted to jump on here before we let you get onto our main episode. Today we're going to be talking about wild camping as a sort of overall topic before we go into more detail and more specific things in future episodes. But we just wanted to introduce wild camping and just have a little general chat about it, didn't we, Liam?
Definitely.
Before we go into anything really specific. So we do hope Santa visits and brings you lots of nice shiny things for your stockings.
That's it. We hope you've been on the good list and not cut too much green wood. But absolutely wonderful experience kind of hearing from you guys, and a big thank you for all your messages, and we look forward to talking to you and catching up with you, I guess, nearer the new year, and I hope that Christmas brings you everything you wish.
Absolutely. We will see you around a campfire in 2022. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and I do hope you enjoy this episode of the Wodesman podcast.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So, wild camping, I guess it's kind of a grey area, really.
Yeah, a bit of a moot point, isn't it, with some people?
Especially over here in the UK. We don't have a lot of public access land, especially, there's a few places, national parks, that do tolerate it. And of course you've got Scotland with the right
open
to roam.
access, absolutely.
There's a few places, but it's few and far between, really, for the common.
For the common man, like the access we have, if there is any at all, is heavily restricted, and there's lots of rules that you have to follow.
Yeah.
As Liam said, the amount of choice that we have in the UK, we have some beautiful land, we have some beautiful forests and woodlands and mountains, but our access to that is restricted in a lot of places.
Yeah, heavily restricted by private ownership, which isn't, necessarily a bad thing at all, and it's probably much needed as well, but it does make things a little bit harder. So for people wanting to go out and practice skills, I guess it's it's definitely one of those little things that's a hard thing to overcome. And even even for both of us, sometimes it's hard to find somewhere.
100%. And I get people ask me all the time, how do you get permission? How do you find somewhere to go camping and do bushcraft and stuff like that? And I've had a number of people ask me at different times, like, how do you start doing bushcraft? How do you start wild camping? How do you start how do you start going camping? And like, I'm always honest with them. Like, I don't have a woodland permission. Like, I've not found one yet. That's like the whole holy grail, isn't it? Of bushcraft.
Man, it's the ultimate dream, to be honest. So I think everyone would love to have their own space, and it's only because there are so many regulations. If you had your own woodland, you could just say, well, I'm custodian of it. I'll look after it. I'm going to do what I want in it. But a lot of people, obviously, there's a lot of insurance with fire risk and stuff like that nowadays
100%.
in the modern litigious world.
I think what you said there about looking after it, like if we had our own woodland or we had permission in a woodland, we would look after it. And it's the same with woodlands we don't have permissions in.
Yeah, absolutely.
We look after them.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that don't.
Well, they're not just a playground to us. They're kind of the heart of everything we're into.
Absolutely, it's something we want to protect.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be devastated to think that this was unable to access just due to poor fire management or something. You know.
100%. And we've both seen fire scars when we've gone out and chopped at trees that are way too big for anyone who's actually bushcrafting to need.
Yeah,
they've just stuck their axe in it willy-nilly.
Yep. I mean, there's always rubbish around as well. You know, just the amount of kind of litter you see in the woods sometimes is kind of demoralising, but you know, it makes you want to pick it up, clear it up, and practice the leave no trace ethic, which
100%.
we both very strongly feel about, don't we?
Really do. And it's like, we will go somewhere, we will have a fire, we will do bushcraft, and then we will leave that woodland in a better condition than when we found it.
Yeah.
And it's something both of us are really passionate about, and if we were camping with someone who wasn't with that ethic, I think we would both find that quite awkward and difficult, actually.
Yeah, it would be quite hard. I'd probably find myself saying something pretty quickly, to be honest.
Same as that.
You know, I feel quite protective about things I enjoy, especially the woods and the outdoors in general, to be honest. And that goes into, you know, everything, even the wild flowers, the wild fauna, flora, everything about it. If I see someone overpicking an area of mushrooms, for example, I'll be a bit, you know, untoward, I guess you could say, because I don't appreciate it. I think there's enough to go around, and just strip a habitat out of selfishness is just ruining the thing that you claim to love.
Absolutely, and everything can be done in a sustainable manner. It often takes more time and more effort on the behalf of the practitioner, but people that are going out into the woods and claiming to love the woods should be happy to spend that extra little bit of time to make sure that the woods are kept that special place. Yeah. And so, having said all that, I think we understand why wild camping can be restricted, because many people that have no experience of wild camping, many people who just want to try it, dip their toe in the water for the first time, don't have the real skills to match their excitement for going out, might not know that big tree there can't be felled with a small hatchet, you know?
Or that you're not going to use that amount of live wood for any reason.
Exactly. So some of it is out of people just needing a bit more education.
Yeah.
I think we're both proponents for more outdoor skills being taught in the sort of secondary education and things like that, because we get forest schools at primary level and in some secondaries, but I think it would be good to have more exposure to nature and studies like that.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing this, isn't it? Just so we can kind of spread the message a little bit more, a little bit further, and reach hopefully some people that, you know, don't have access to it in such a maybe a classroom environment, or so easily access, or don't have friends that are passionate about bushcraft. You know, if you hopefully this allows you some kind of avenue to hear some open discussion and feel like you're part of the conversation as well.
100%.
And yeah, it's interesting, like you said there, because wild camping, although we understand why people can be hesitant about it, it's really the reasons why people should be positive about it that's like the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Just what it can do for a person.
Mental health wise, for me, it's a massive thing.
Yeah,
like
100%.
I always need this as like wild camping for me is more than just something I want to do.
No, it's a levelling back to ground zero.
Absolutely, it's what I need to do. And I think there's a lot of people like that. They need that sort of forest bathing like you get in Japan, where you need to go out absolutely you need to immerse yourself in that environment, and for me, I can't do that if I'm just visiting for the day. I need to spend the night in the environment.
And it's good to spend you know, as long as you can out there. If you get a chance to do longer trips, you got to take them, because
100%
time just goes too quick. So, and one night is great, but if you can get 2 or 3, it just makes the trip that much more special.
Yeah, my longest trip up to this point has been an 8-night wild camp, and by day 6 you start getting in a real rhythm, and
routine.
everything clicks, and you feel so much more in tune with the animals, with nature, just with the routines and what you're doing at camp.
And then you gotta pack up.
And then you gotta pack up and go home, and it's like, God's sake.
It's always the way. But it's so nice as well, because it brings you to so many different areas, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So many different places we get to see through wild camping, whether it be stealth wild camping, whether it be, like we said before, at a national park, or up in Scotland on open access land, up on mountainsides. There's plenty of places to do it, even if it's, landowner permission. If you're lucky enough to have landowners' permission, take advantage of it, because there's so many people out there who do have it.
And don't abuse that permission either. Like, be really open with the guy that's giving it to you, and like, just build that relationship, I guess, and don't squander it because you're very lucky and jealous
of the wood.
But
that's what a real bushcrafter is. Really a woodsman, a Wodesman. They look after the woods, like we said before, but they'll use deadfall. They'll know when to stop exhausting deadfall. They'll know when to stop exhausting coppice material, for example, rather than just go in and clear a whole site of its coppice for 5 years, and leaving none for yourself even.
So I think as a podcast, we both are really big on supporting sensible, caring for the environment, sustainable wild camping.
Yeah.
So not the sort of camping where you go out with 15, 12 packs and burn the forest down and play loud music next to the big lakes and leave all your rubbish everywhere.
Yeah, and just leave it for someone else to collect.
That's not what we're about at all. We're much more about looking after the woods, and we can see why people might not want wild campers, but at the same time we're huge proponents of wild camping. It's what we do, and about doing that sustainably in a way that leaves the woods in a better state of management and sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, that goes down even to our kind of fire preparation and fire kind of aftercare, doesn't it? I mean, where are we now at the moment, Tom?
Well, I mean, I can't say exactly where we are.
No, of course.
But we are wild camping
exactly.
at this moment, and we thought we'd take the time to record a little episode. And what you were saying there about our fire preparation actually ties in perfectly to what we're talking about, because we wanted a fire in this woodland. The woodland we're in at the moment is a spruce heavy woodland.
Exactly.
And spruce drops spruce needles and spruce cones.
Which is highly flammable material.
Absolutely.
Especially when there's layers upon layers of dried out. Even damp stuff can catch.
Yeah. And it forms this layer of duff, of this flammable material that can just smoulder and spread through the forest. And so we knew that, and we wanted a fire, and we knew we wanted a fire. So we started digging down in our location, didn't we? To try and get to earth and clay.
And it's quite funny you say that, because you can, with duff, it's really easy to, when you're scraping away, think you've got to earth because you're just kind of smearing the duff material, the kind of composted duff. And it can look like mud, but more often than not, if you keep scraping, you'll kind of break through that layer like a carpet, won't you?
Absolutely, and we eventually did get down to a solid clay base, didn't we?
It was a good site.
And we've even had to monitor it and move the duff even further back, haven't we?
Yeah, multiple times, just as the fire's kind of grown. And to be honest, it's how many inches would you say it is down from where it would be? 6 inches?
Yeah. About
7
that.
inches we'd had to dug down.
Absolutely. And tell them your story about what we found under the ground.
Yeah, it was so funny. So we typical, just clearing out the fire as usual, the fire pit location, and started seeing this clay like we said, and then we felt a little bit of what we thought was a root. So if it was that big, we were quite worried, but it turned out to be a stump about the size of a football, probably even bigger
than that,
than a football, and it was just huge. And then about 2 minutes later we found another one buried under.
I was like, what's that? As I kicked it and started hopping around.
So it just goes to show you, doesn't it, if we'd have lit a fire on top of there just willy-nilly, and knowing that we were staying for a few days, that would have just
smouldered
really
under the ground, spread out in its root system and caught the duff.
Yeah, it would have been tragic, to be honest.
So what we did is we took a lot of time and a lot of effort to pull those stumps out.
Yeah, just with our hands, you know.
With our hands, and if we needed tools, we used tools, and we stomped the clay down to have a nice solid clay base in place of that stump, and it's given us a really nice safe fire pit. The duff pulled back like a metre away from anywhere hot, down on bare earth, and we were able to have a fire for a couple of days and not worry about it.
It's been great. I mean, it's again another joy of wild camping. Even though it might sound like a chore, that to me is just, you know, part of getting out, and doing it properly shouldn't be a chore.
No, and we're already planning how to put the fire out safely.
Yeah, you've got your, what is it, 20 litre dry bag?
20 litre dry bag. There's a stream, a good walk away.
So we're going to turn it inside out.
Yep.
Fill it up, and then once we're done, we can turn it the right way round and give it a rinse off.
Yep, after having saturated the ground and made sure that fire is out for good.
We'll have a good 60 litres on there or so, just let it saturate through. And not only that, we'll kind of sit and watch, won't we?
Yeah, we'll wait
not just a rushing
until
game.
We're sure, and just have a sit spot. You never know, we might see more deer like we saw earlier.
Yep, there's beautiful muntjac in this area.
And I saw a hawk swooping through the trees really near me, actually.
Yeah, really pretty.
Which was really pretty.
I was off for a little stroll, wasn't I?
Yeah, and I was like, Liam, you missed the hawk.
Always.
So I think, to summarise our first point about wild camping, it's about promoting the sustainable wild camper and the wild camper who cares for the environment. And I think sharing education is so important. And if someone hasn't wild camped before, maybe go with them. You know, show them the safe way of doing it. Show them the right way of doing it.
Yeah, 100%. And if it's you who hasn't been wild camping before, you know, there are definitely avenues that can kind of nurture you into that experience. For example, you know, woodlands where they allow camping, you know, pay for camping essentially.
I still do that on a regular basis.
Yep.
It's one of my favourite couple of campsites that I use. I know the owners now, so I get like even more permissions than most people do, and I can do
brilliant.
a full bushcraft camp there at a campsite and not see anyone.
I love that.
And I just have to buy the wood, and it pays for the sustainability of that woodland.
Exactly.
There are places, just look around, there are campsites that allow you to have fires, and even though they are campsites, they're still nice, and they can allow you a base to then go out and do adventures and walks and hikes and things.
100%, yeah, and you can still do everything that you want to do, although it's in a, you know, you could say a slightly sterile environment. It's no different when you're sat around a fire with a good mate or a good few mates, you know, a drink or two and just the sound of a fire, to be honest.
And you can still practice skills. I did one of my first bow drill fires at a youth hostel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, the youth hostel staff had no idea what was going on. Suddenly a green clad man in his Fjallravens arrived with a bow drill set attached to his bag, in a pouring rainstorm with a tiny micro poncho, and decided he wanted to stay the night. And they thought I was mad, but it was a great experience for me.
Yeah, I bet. What cool stories though, and you know, for that to be at a campsite makes it even more special, and it just shows what kind of experience you can have there. I know my second kind of wild camp that I filmed was up in Scotland. That was up in the Galloway National Park, and stuff like that is actually a really easy option to do. The way I kind of went around it was Google Maps, and there was another map website, I can't remember what it's called, like zoom.io or something. And we used the satellite maps to look at woodlands that were a really good scale.
Yeah.
And basically where they were in correlation to stuff like rivers, so for water sources, and local like car parks. So yeah, we discovered a really good place and just kind of set a trail, got the OS map and head for a bearing, and kind of just went along the way, and it's really nice.
That's great.
That's kind of what we miss down here in England, isn't it?
Well, we've been talking about doing Scotland together, haven't we?
Yes.
That's on our list of, because I've never been to Scotland, and I feel like I'm
done.
really missing out. So me and Liam will be doing that at some point. But as Liam said, planning your trip is a huge thing. Planning what you're packing, making sure you're going to have enough warm layers, things like that. But also planning your resources, having a look before you go at a map, having a look on your Google, whatever it is, satellite image, so that you can see, like, well, you can sort of tell as well from above, like, is it going to be a really dense woodland? Is it going to be really sparse? Is there going to be fields surrounding it?
100%. And you've also got, like, kind of take into consideration that things change before satellite pictures are updated. So like in Scotland, for example, when we got there, 1/4 of the woodland that we were looking at just on the walk, so luckily not one we'd chosen to camp in, like this whole woodland was gone, like flattened, like taken down. Obviously Douglas firs, and a few spruce and stuff, so all going for the logging industry up there. But yeah, it was just all gone. So if we'd have chosen that site to camp, it would have been a complete disaster. But albeit there was half a mile away, there was another woodland, so we weren't too far out. But it was it goes to show you have to be aware of that as well.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's worth being open-minded about
where you're camping. I had a very similar experience in the Surrey Hills. I'm local to the Surrey Hills, so I go there for day hikes often. And I've known that area since I was a little boy, so I know it like the back of my hand. Never need a map. Like, it's just an area I know most of it, where I go walking anyway.
That's a beautiful relationship to have.
It is really lovely. And it's just really like relaxed, where the youth hostel is as well.
Nice.
Tanner's Hatch Youth Hostel. They've added a few ugly buildings into it now, but it still allows fires, so it's still a decent place to start.
That's great.
But I went there to film a video for my bushcraft channel, and I just wanted to make a coffee on a Trangia. I wanted to sit with my new tarp and try out a tarp shelter with it, and I just wanted to sit and watch the woodlands. And I got to the bit where I planned to film the video, and it was completely gone, just as you said. Like, it had been clear felled, wasn't a tree in sight, and I was absolutely gutted. I just walked on another like half mile and found a different woodland. But it's like, you do plan, and if you're set in your ways, that can really derail your day. Like,
it can, yeah. And I have to kind of warn myself to always have that kind of bit of open-mindedness. I remember I turned to Josh one bit in Scotland when we got there, and it was really boggy. We'd walked through this kind of bog where it just never-ending water down, you just couldn't see the bottom, kind of spongy sedge and everything, and the ground was moving as you walked on it. And as we got into the forest, it was as wet. I turned to Josh and I said, man, we are going to struggle to find somewhere to camp. I was just like, this is mental. And he was just like, we'll get it, lad. And that's all I needed, that just little bit of positivity. And I was just like, yeah, too right.
I do think that
it could have easily gone, if someone else was negative in that situation, it could have 100%. Easily gone like, oh no.
It can be like, that's all you need, a little morale boost, because wild camping isn't all sunshine and roses.
Oh no.
Like, sometimes everything goes wrong. Sometimes what you're cooking goes in the fire. Sometimes it all sticks to the pan.
Sometimes you get a hole burnt in your tarp, like
today. Sometimes you twist your ankle on the way in.
I know.
Like me.
Awful. But still, we crack on, and a Europlaster sealed the hole, and you had a few paracetamol, didn't you? And
yeah, walked it off,
and it's been good. We just kept positive and kept each other good company, which
absolutely
is another thing. You don't have to wild camp alone. It's not all about solo.
No.
Having to prove something camping.
No, there's a lot of macho culture in the outdoors, and a lot of sort of people trying to prove their egos, I think, and I genuinely think that there's no place for that. There's no need for it.
No.
You're not trying to prove anything. Like, if the weather's really dangerous, call it, quit.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to prove for getting yourself hurt in a storm.
No, if Storm Arwen was coming in tonight, we'd probably be packing up.
Yeah.
Because there was a few fallen trees around this area that could have if they hadn't have fell, they could have easily fell. Not in this particular campsite. There's no widow makers or anything like that, which is another good thing to look out for when you're wild camping.
Always check above the canopy. Check
up
for deadfall and broken limbs.
Because if you see anything that looks like it could potentially fall in a high wind, you definitely, either want to try and get that out, or don't camp there, because it's not worth the risk with something that heavy falling down on you. But like you said, it's weather is a big decider on wild camping, can't it be? It can be a big game changer, to be honest.
We were saying yesterday, though, that we were quite happy it rained, because once you get used to the environment and you're happy to spend nights out, and even spend nights slightly damp or slightly cold, once you've done it a few times and you've got used to those feelings, you almost enjoy the challenge.
Yeah, you are hardening yourself in the end of the day, aren't you?
And we were saying how we were like so glad we'd come, even though it was like raining and things like that. We were like, we're so glad we'd come, because if we'd missed out on this, we'd be missing out on like 70% of the times we could go camping, because in Britain it rains all the time.
Literally. Yeah, there's probably like, a few months out of the year where we're guaranteed some dry weather, and the rest can be few and far between, really. On some years it's just a really wet season, and if you decided to only go out wild camping when it was dry and perfect, you wouldn't have that many times, really. No. At all.
And for me, winter camps are the best.
Yeah.
Because you actually feel the value of the heat from the fire. Like in the summer, you don't almost want that fire because you're already sweating.
Yeah, absolutely.
By just collecting the wood. Whereas in winter, the fire is warming you, the fire is cooking your dinner, it's boiling and purifying your water.
It's drying you.
Absolutely. Like our tarps are dry, even though it rained earlier.
Yeah. No, it's a great morale boost just in general, fire. I'm about to go and stoke it now, so excuse the sound of footsteps.
Makes it more real.
But we're glad to be bringing you along on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. We thought we'd talk about wild camping in general, both the stigma against it and why we think that actually that stigma should be broken, but also try and make people less worried about doing it. Like, it is something that if you do it properly and you bring the right provisions, you bring like safety equipment, like a tarp, like warm clothes,
A small first aid kit,
something to light a fire. You let someone know where you're going. If you plan all these things ahead of time, it doesn't have to be daunting.
And I mean, we've all got mobile phones nowadays, haven't we?
100%,
So
absolutely.
We're never too far away from help, and you know, a photograph even of where you are, just so someone knows, can be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really fun. So go pick a mate that's into the outdoors and give it a go. And for those people that are wild campers already, you know all of this stuff and you appreciate how much value you can get from actually going out and sustainably wild camping and improving the environment that you're camping in, taking any rubbish out, but having a really good time.
Yeah, it's a definitely one of my favourite things to do, is just come out in the woods with someone like yourself, or even if it is on my own, just coming out and enjoying it. Doesn't even have to be overnight. You can come out and do this stuff just in the daytime. Go for nice walks with a little twig stove. That's something I really love doing.
Yep.
Going out watching nature. Bring a pair of binoculars. It's great fun. It's just effortless once you're into it. Really,
you become in tune with it, and it's just joyous to be outside. And we're actually making jerky, and we'll do a separate chat about this, I'm sure, in the future. But
oh yes,
we're making jerky over the fire, and it's just like, right, we're out in nature. What skills do we want to practice?
Yep.
What sort of bushcrafty things do we want to do? Should we go and have a hunt around, find some boughs, make a tripod?
Yeah, well, I had a few viewers of one of my videos where I was eating some jerky that I'd made, and they'd asked for me to show how to make it. So I thought it's a perfect opportunity to do it with Tom, because there's two pairs of hands for us to be able to thatch it and cuts the work down. We can have two people monitoring it, and yeah, it's just been so much fun, and we're going to have a good tasty reward out of that.
Absolutely. The most important thing is we get beef jerky.
Yeah, it's the best, and it's smoked for probably 12 odd hours. It will be. It's going to be tasty for sure, and that's another benefit of wild camping. You get to try so many cool different things and share stories.
Recipes. It's a great thing to do, and I'm really pleased to be involved with it. And I was saying yesterday that I'm quite sad that for some people they don't like it, because to get the joy and experiences that we have when we come out, we just love it, and it's just our thing. And it would be really nice if everyone found that.
Yeah, almost like it's not, I don't pity people.
Savage.
But I'm almost, I'm sad for them, because it's such a basic thing, reconnecting with your ancestors, that is so lost on so many people.
Yeah.
And we hope this podcast kind of helps persuade people to go out and try it. So, even if it means going into your local farmers kind of fields where there's a patch of woodland, and if you don't know the farmer, a technique that I know has worked before is just hammering in a stake in an obvious place and putting in a waterproof bag or a see-through kind of sandwich bag on a little bit of string connected to the post, your name and details, and just a little note saying, I'm interested in talking to you about wild camping, could you call me? there's nothing more polite than doing that. For a farmer, for example, they're either going to say yes or they're going to say no. If you see the farmhouse, maybe they'll have a number on the outside, drop them a call, have a chat, explain what you're all about, say you're going to respect their woodland, show them the campsite before and after you've been there, and practice, leave no trace.
And be polite as well. Like, if they say no, they might have good reason to say no, so respect that decision.
Yeah, some people have had bad experiences or may have a shoot in their woodland.
Yeah.
And don't want bushcraft to get
That's a funny looking pheasant.
Oh, but sir, the beater said. No, it's so true. And that's one thing to be always respectful of when you are wild camping. If you come across stuff like shoots, do leave them well alone, because that is someone else's livelihood. There's a lot of kind of I guess animal rights activism out there as well that will kind of go and open up pheasant pens and stuff like that, and it can be quite devastating to.
Then the foxes get them.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it can be quite devastating to the pheasant, really, because they lose their safe spaces.
I have to tell you a story now.
Go on.
Just so I lived with my parents about 5-6 years ago. I had a big range set up. We had a nice big garden. I was very lucky, and we had a big range set up for my 22 air rifle.
Nice.
I would shoot it every day. Still got it. Brilliant shooter. Air arms. Very nice.
You shot a snail shell, didn't you?
I did the other day. Yeah, tiny little snail shell at 30 metres. But I still do it when I go and visit. I've still got my range set up, and I love that. But once I went out there, and there was this pigeon that had obviously got a broken wing.
Yep.
And it couldn't fly. And it was in so much pain. So I went in to get my rifle. I was just going to quick tap it with the 22. Put it out of its misery, because it was really suffering.
Yeah.
And
distressed.
My parents saw me going out towards this pigeon with a 22, and they were like, "No, don't shoot the pigeon!" And so I hesitated for 30 seconds, and the pigeon saw me coming. And I was just going to shoot it from a safe distance, so it wouldn't have even seen where it got hit from.
No.
And it saw me, because my mum was shouting at me, and it crawled under the fence, and all we heard was 3 corgis from next door ripping it into shreds. No. I was like, oh no, look what you did, mother.
Miserable life.
Look what you did.
Oh my god. That's amazing.
Sorry, that just reminded me of that story. No. Nothing to do with wild camping.
No, that is so funny. I absolutely love that. I mean, it was quite funny actually. I was on a wild camp one time, and we came on the way to the wild camp. We came across a pheasant pen, and so we kind of quickly veered off, because not only did we not want to be disturbing the pheasants that much, but we don't want the gamekeeper to be coming and saying who's disturbing his birds. And there was this one pheasant who was just persistent at trying to get to us for some reason, and it just kept flying at the fence to the point where it just basically got its wings stuck in the fence.
Oh no.
So it was flapping up in this, I guess it was kind of deer netting, probably rabbit netting, smaller holes, and it got one of its wings somehow mangled in with this thing, so we had to help it back out. But even after we got it out, it still was trying to get back up to the same place where it just got stuck. And it just shows what kind of silly animals they are. They are really funny.
They're psychos.
They are
Mate,
crazy.
they are psychos. I annoyed a male pheasant on a farm, and it chased me. So I grabbed the nearest thing that I could find to defend myself from this pheasant, which
real cock pheasant.
It happened to be a washing bag that you carry out washing in. So I chucked it on top of this pheasant, and you got the pheasant inside the wash bin trying to peck its way out. Anyway, we are slightly off topic here now, talking about stupid pheasant stories.
No, it's all part of it though. It's the joys of wild camping and the experiences they bring. And even just the outdoors, it's all part and parcel of it, isn't it, I think?
Absolutely. So I think if we summarise basically, just a little takeaway for today, wild camping can be an absolutely brilliant thing to be involved in. Highly recommend it. Learn some basic skills, do some planning.
Yeah, there's plenty of YouTube videos out there for people to watch, on just how to strike a fire still,
Yeah.
the kind of basics of fire lighting, and yeah, just respect it. You don't come in and ruin things. If you've had a fire, try and burn all the bits of wood that you've put on there,
Yep.
even if it means staying for an hour or two longer, and then wait for it to be out, pour water over it, and then grab the ashes with your hands. Might sound a bit dirty. Then you know it's out.
Yeah, if it's not burning you, it's not going to burn the forest.
And yeah, like Tom said, just enjoy it.
100%. Enjoy it. Get out as much as you can. Get some experiences, and you'll be telling silly pheasant stories in no time.
Definitely. We're going to sink into these IPAs. What are they today?
They are jute.
Jute.
We picked them because it reminded us of twine.
Yep, jute twine. A good fire lighting.
A very good
Aid.
fire lighting aid.
But yeah, we're going to sink into these. We hope you've enjoyed the podcast. This has been the Wodesman.
This has been the Wodesman. This is a topic we'll definitely come back to discuss specific elements of.
Yeah.
But as we were on a wild camp, we just wanted to just sort of, in general, encapsulate our thoughts on wild camping at this very present moment. And if you're not feeling confident enough to risk getting someone to ask you to move in the middle of the night, which can happen but is very, very rare.
Be prepared to go.
You've got to be
Or
prepared to politely explain what you're doing and then leave.
Or say, look, I've had a few drinks, I can't drive, so I'm going to have to pack up in the morning once I'm sober and drive off or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely, and just be respectful. But for some people, the idea of doing that is just it's too much, isn't it? It's like, the rule says I can't do it, so I'm not going to do it. Don't give up on bushcraft. There are plenty of campsites, youth hostels, national parks like Dartmoor, where you actually can do this stuff.
Yeah, and they might have their own bylaws, but just check with those. If you're going through that avenue, I'm sure you'll be researching them anyway, so you'll find that information. And don't give up, like Tom said.
Absolutely, it can be frustrating. Like, you can think, there's all this lovely land and I can't go on any of it.
Yeah. And once you get confident in your skills, you soon realise that you can.
Yeah.
As well.
100%.
So yeah, enjoy.
I think wild camping is the future of sustainability as well, really, because actually if we get more and more people interested in nature and interested in the woods, there are more and more people who actually care about preserving it. I think that's quite a good thing to think about.
We want to see it here and remain here in a good state, because too often do we see it just clear felled, and then it will take a whole nother generation to get back to where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Which is a topic for another
That is
podcast.
Definitely a topic for another podcast. So we hope you've very much enjoyed our second episode of Wodesman Podcast.
We're available on Spotify and, like we said before, hopefully YouTube, but we're still sussing it out.
Absolutely. Please do connect with us on Instagram. Send us a direct message and we'll get back to you. And if you have any ideas, any comments, anything you'd like us to talk about, anything you'd like to say us to read out on the show,
yep, we can certainly do that.
Give us a shout. Find us on Instagram, send us a message.
You can drop a voice message as well, remember, so there should be a link in the description where you can leave us a voicemail. We can play it and respond in the show, and
that'd be great.
That'd be quite cool.
Really cool.
Awesome.
All right, guys, stay happy, stay outside, and enjoy.
Stay safe.